step into my own, right? And then learn to be confident and learn to be proud of myself and learn to remember that like I do have power and I can be this fierce, bad, awesome woman who, you know, takes no prisoners, and that's okay. I have the right to do that. So yeah, so that's kind of where
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of my podcast. We have a special guest today joining all the way from United States. We have Franccesca De Struct of Fate
Hi.
Destroy. Hi Franccesca.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Can you hear me? Oh, I'm doing great. Just enjoying the evening, and I'm about to have some pizza, and yeah.
Yeah, I always I follow you on Instagram. I really like your post.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I've been trying to revamp my Instagram lately, and had my surgery. I am exploring all new different parts of being a woman, and what it means to be able to embrace that, I think. Yeah.
Right. So how is the situation in your place right now with the COVID and all these political situation?
Oh God, it's really awful. People here are just sort of looking at other people here and just shaking their heads. So I'm in Los Angeles, and for us, 1 out of every 5 people is infected right now, which is really a really large statistic, right? So 1 out of every 5 people is currently infected, and there is no more room in any of the hospital beds. So they're literally turning people away. So we are on like a full lockdown. We have curfews in place, and you can't eat outside anywhere. Because before they had it to where you could go and eat somewhere, but you would eat out, like do outside dining. But now they're not doing that now. So yeah, so that's been kind of crazy. And then the political thing is just weird because it doesn't make any sense. Like,
Right.
and I don't really like to talk about politics for a lot of reasons because
Yeah.
because it becomes a weird. What I will say is that to the Capitol building, and that's insane. So yeah, so that's really
Right.
it's just weird. It's weird that this is the world we live in now.
Right. So when did you able to perform last live?
So the last time we actually got to play live was January of 2019, right before everything kind of went down. We played um, for one of my favorite and one of the biggest music conventions, which is different from a festival, obviously, but a big music convention called NAMM.
Right.
Um, so my friend who runs it does A&R for Schecter Guitars, they do like this little side party thing. But it's usually like a pretty big crowd of people, and it's my fault. And so to be actually able to play it this year was really phenomenal, and like really regularly we had an entire tour lined up. We had first time in our lives, like really, I mean, because we played festivals in 2019, but we were slotted to play a festival in August or September of last year that was like the biggest we would have ever played, of like 25,000 people, and then of course the tour, and so we had to. That's it. That's basically it.
Right. So
We
Francis,
played our last show in January of 2019,
right.
and go ahead.
So Francesca, can you tell me a little bit about your childhood and how did you like got into music?
For sure. So I was born in Houston, Texas, a really conservative big state.
Right.
Um, and my stepfather worked for record labels, and so I was around music my whole life, and mostly country music actually to start. And so I guess like since music was always a part of my life, it was always played around me. My family and I always went to rodeos. I went to my first concert when I was like 11. So music was always a really important part of my life. And then I decided that I wanted to learn how to play an instrument. And my stepfather basically told me, he gave me a little acoustic guitar and said if I could learn how to play it, then he would buy me like a nice electric one. He just wanted proof that I wasn't gonna like give up on it.
Right.
And so I did that. And then when I was 11, I joined marching band at my school, and that's where I learned how to write and read sheet music. And I was involved in that from the time I was like 11 all the way up through end of high school. So like 11 through 18, I spent a lot of time playing musical instruments, and it's always been a part of my life. I joined a lot of little garage bands when I was in Texas, and just small stuff when you're in high school, playing with your friends in a garage, and hoping to play some local dive bar at some point. And so I didn't really get really serious about music in terms of touring and playing live shows until I moved to Los Angeles, and I did that in like 2012. So music just always really been a part of my life from the time I was very young.
Right. So when did you discover like singing, so that you can sing and then you want to become a singer?
I pretty much everything that I've done in music up like a studio basis. I filled in for bands, I filled in for tours, and then I was in a couple of pretty notable bands, and I got to tour all over the country. But there came a point where I basically realized that I wasn't able to get into the size band that I wanted to, and by size I mean more success level. Because the bands that were like in the upper echelon, the bands that everybody had heard of, none of them really wanted to have a female in the band. And I would have auditions where people would say, you played that really well, you did a great job, but we're really looking for a male to fill the spot or whatever. And so there was a lull in between bands, and I wrote this song. I wrote Break Free just sort of on a whim, just to see what I could do with it. I mean, I'd always loved to sing, but I'd never done it really in front of people. It was mostly just something I enjoyed. And I wrote Break Free, and the producer and I worked on it together, and then it kind of took off from there. As soon as I wrote the song, it sort of started off as like a hobby, as a passion project thing. But then once I started doing it, I was like, no, like this is where I'm meant to be. So after that, I was able to continue that and find members, and then we formed the band.
Right. So with regards to the songs that you write for Fate Destroyed, I mean, it comes from you. So what sort of a concepts or ideas that you have? How do you write these songs?
So a lot of my music for the band, I mean, I think the same for everybody, is that your music is a reflection of your life and what you're going through, and both from a listener standpoint and from a singer standpoint, because music is there to help us relate, and I think it can be entertaining, but I think a lot of people, the music that we like is music we relate to. It's music that makes us feel things that we have felt. I have been through a lot in my life, as most people have, and so my music really stems from a couple of places. Of course, heartache, right? Everybody writes about heartache. It makes sense. And then the next has a lot more to do with understanding like who I am and who I want to be, and trying to overcome insecurities and feeling trapped in life sometimes, because I deal with that a lot. I feel very trapped. I feel like there has to be more to life, and I want more in life, and I write about that a lot, because I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, is life isn't bad, but you want more, and you think that there could be more, and you want to not get stuck doing the same things, especially if you don't like them. So that's mostly it. So the songwriting process, in the beginning, I would write all of the music and sing it, but then now that we have Roger and Johnny, who are my guitar players, what happens is they tend to write, and then they send me the finished song, and then I put vocals over it, and I give suggestions on what I think could be different, or what changes I want to make to the sound itself, and then we go back to the drawing board and we connect with each other. It sucks because during COVID we can't just go sit together and write, you know? It used to
Right.
be like that. We used to be able to just go to our drummer's house and we would all sit down and write, or, you know, do things like that. But I mean, the thing is we have to be able to adapt, and you have to be able to deal with whatever life throws at you. And I think that that's something that definitely COVID has made totally different, is the music writing process for a lot of people.
Right. So, Franccesca, how do you describe the sound of Fate?
It's weird. I guess like the closest approximation would be like melodic metalcore, because there is a lot of clean singing, which has like a pop influences and is very bright. But then it does have really heavy, hard breakdowns, and that's where sort of the metalcore part comes in.
Right.
What I think is interesting about our music is that you can also hear like some progressive, like prog metal or prog rock influences, especially because everybody in my band like really likes like those kinds of bands, and so the approximation would be like melodic metalcore.
Right. One thing I really loved about Fate is the music videos that you guys put out. It's really cool music videos. Uh, who does
Thank
this? Who does the concepts and the direction? Is it you?
you. So Break Free was actually that. So something interesting about Break Free, which is the first music video where we put out, I did that music video as a proof of concept. At the time, I was shopping around the band to a bunch of people and trying to get people to join. But one thing you have to understand about Los Angeles is that unless you're already somebody, nobody cares, right? So I was having a hard time getting people to want to join the band. And so what I figured I would do is I would make this song, the single, and I would spend a ton of money to shoot a crazy video, and then people would understand that I was serious, and it worked. So I put out that video and then was able to hire all the rest of my members like immediately, because people saw that like I wasn't playing around and I was ready to like do something meaningful and big and cool. So so the music videos have all been from my mind. Break Free makes sense with the song itself, and I wanted to do the suspension crew, so the hooks in my back in that song are real, that they really are pierced through my back, and when they're pulling on them, they really are pulling on the hooks that are in my skin. And so like that was kind of a crazy concept. That was filmed by Matt Zane, and We Fall, which is the second one, was sort of loosely based off of this music video by Deftones called You've Seen the Butcher.
Right.
And that one takes place in a library, but it has that same surprise ending where it starts off clean and then everything gets really bloody, and then like the song comes to a conclusion. So that's where I came in for that. And In the Pines was sort of a weird video because we didn't really, so number one, In the Pines is a cover, right? So it's not our original music.
Yeah.
And then number two, it's so outside of the box of what we normally do. It was like really hard to think about what to do for a music video. That one was directed by Ron Underwood, and his suggestion was just to literally go out in the pines. And so it was kind of weird to be in full show regalia in the middle of nature. I don't think I'll do that again. But you know, I think a band evolves over time.
Right.
And changes things, and then you're like, well, I could do this better. But that's the good thing about music, is that there's always a process that you can follow to get better at whatever you're doing, you know?
Yeah. The In the Pines, because I mean that's a big song to cover, right? Because Nirvana covered it during the Unplugged, right? So and it's but what I felt from your song, like the video that you put out, the way you sing that, it sounded like, have you seen this music that Johnny Cash put out during the American Records era that he worked with?
Yes.
It had that vibe of that video and
Yes.
how you delivered it, right? So
yeah, I think that's a pretty fair estimation, and actually that's quite a compliment, because the funny thing is that you never really know how a cover is going to do And a lot of people think that Nirvana sang the original, but they obviously did not. It's Lead
Right.
Belly who sang the original. It's a folk song. Back like I think it's like in the 1920s, like 1918 or something, really long time ago. You never really know how a cover is going to do, and again, the cover was really far outside of our usual sound. It's really slow. It has a lot of electronics. Okay, so yeah, so you never really know what a cover is going to do. People think Nirvana did it. It's really far outside of our usual sound because it's very slow and has electronics. But I really like that song. I feel like we did a very interesting and different take on it, and it is, I don't think that it just never took off. It's sort of a flop if you think about the success of our other stuff. But it is what it is. It's fine.
Right. uh, what really got me like interested of Fate, and the reason I wanted to talk to you, because I felt when I watched the videos and all your online presence and stuff, so I see this very confident, raw, powerful image coming out of you. Where this power this comes from?
Through a time period in my life where I lacked confidence, and I um was really unhappy with who I was, and I think that that's sort of where the band came from, right? It was a method to deal with those feelings, and it took a really long time for me to establish myself and to be able to be confident in who I am and to be confident in how I look, and that took a lot of time and effort and energy, obviously. So I think, I think the band is sort of a means to an end, right? Like, so I was having issues with confidence and having issues feeling good about myself and having issues like understanding my place in the world and feeling really trapped in my life and having a hard time expressing things that I was going through. And then I had the opportunity to start this project. And basically, as soon as the project started, I was able to, really step into my own, right? And then learn to be confident and learn to be proud of myself and learn to remember that like I do have power and I can be this fierce, bad, awesome woman who, takes no prisoners, and that's okay. I have the right to do that. So yeah, so that's kind of where that comes from. I think the band actually sort of made it that way. Before the band, I felt confident in a way because I was touring with other bands and all that kind of stuff, but I think having the band really made me sort of focus on self-discovery and focus on the parts of myself that I needed to improve on and didn't like. And in doing so, I was able to like find my voice, find my confidence.
Right. So, so with Fate, what are some memorable shows that you talk about? One convention, but Nam convention, but that was a solo show, or with Fate?
No, so we played the side party. It's the Schechter party for that, and those are always really great shows just because those are like people I really care about. I know almost everyone who works at Schechter or throws those parties or does A&R for Schechter guitars. So it's like family, and everyone that comes to NAMM is like family. So
Mm.
playing a show like that when it's like a packed crowd in a really small room is always super memorable because there's like this intimacy that you get with the audience, and especially like for the most part when you're singing and playing live, you're not really playing to your friends, you're playing to other people, to strangers, to people you don't know. And so to have opportunities to play shows that are like to your peers and people you spend time with and people you see, that's a whole different vibe. It's a different experience, and I really like it. So that was a really good show. There's like there's a lot. We haven't done like really gigantic shows yet. I think that was supposed to happen last year, and I think after we drop this album this year, that a lot more opportunities will present themselves. And I know that we do have something planned. We're playing Blue Ridge in September, which is going to be I think like 25,000 people attend. So that'll be a nice big show, and I'm sure that'll be memorable. We played this festival called Metal in the Mountains in West Virginia. The show itself was small. Like I mean, how do I explain it? Like the headliners were big headliners. We were really excited because we were playing before Chelsea Grin, and I love Chelsea Grin a lot. They're one of my biggest inspirations. I wish I could sing like that. And so that part, but the part that was cool is like that was our first time to travel as a band together, and we got on a plane and we flew to a different state, and we rented a car and we drove, and we just, it was just like a bonding experience for the band, and I think that like made the show more memorable. So that was cool. So those are the two that really stick out in my head. The NAMM show, because I just really enjoy playing that. And of course, like there's the shows that you could talk about for clout, other things like that. And you always, the thing about playing the whiskey that really makes it different is, you know, you go there and you see your name in the marquee, and if you're anyone who, I mean, once you live here, you kind of did. I remember the first my band, wow, like we're doing something, you know, like we're gonna do something cool.